Yeah, I was incarcerated because I violated my probation for driving under suspension. I was originally on probation for possession of heroin and driving under suspension, unregistered vehicle, missing some plates, no insurance. I'll say out of the last 10 years, I served 7 of it in prison. I have a 14-year-old son. He lives with his mother right now. At one point, it was like it was like Christmas time. And I had a girlfriend I had been seeing for a little bit, so she was coming to my house for Christmas. I had my son for that day. His mother showed up and just like caused a gigantic scene. And she took the kid, threw him over his shoulders, and dragged him out screaming. And I didn't want to make it any harder on him, so I didn't like fight with her at the time it was happening. I just wanted her to get him calm down or whatever. I told her I don't want to be with you. I like to just keep it civil with you, and so I can keep seeing my son, and that's it. And she didn't like it. She kept giving me the ultimatums like, oh, well, if you don't want him, you don't. If you don't want me, you don't want him.
Current relationship with your son?
I haven't had one since I took the 4 years this time. She tried to say that my son didn't know me, but a DCF worker, I guess, went and met with her, brought some pictures, showed him a bunch of pictures, like a lineup. I don't know. And do you know this person? Well, I don't know that person. Do you know this person? I don't know that person. Do you know this person? Yeah, that's my father. Her father was there, so he told me what happened. And at no point did he not know who I was. And that was like her main thing at the time was that, he didn't know who I was, which proved her wrong when they showed him the pictures. At the time, I was getting letters from him and writing letters to him. And then she just wrote me a letter one day and told me to stop writing them, that it was like hurting his feelings or whatever. So I felt like, because I didn't want to see him in jail because I was like ashamed of it, and I didn't like to see him over a border. And, so then by the time I ended up into the 3 years, I got a whole bunch of papers saying that she was serving me with termination of rights papers, that I had to go to court. It was confusing to me because I didn't understand how I never heard anything about it before that. After she already knew I was in jail, she started putting my something in the back of the paper, like looking for John Doe, father of so-and-so. And I never responded because I was in jail. And I mean, I don't think I ever would have seen that in the first place because I never knew that that was happening. And mind you, I'm still talking to her father and all this. Like, she went behind a lot of people to get it done. All I want to do is see my son. I'll be civil with you. I'm not going to disrespect you. I don't disrespect your boyfriend. I expect you to do the same thing. So when I got out of jail, my son was calling me Daddy Phil. He was calling the other guy Daddy Bob. So when I finally got alone with him, I was talking to him, and he says, he's like, do I have to keep calling you that? And I'm like, keep calling me what? He's like, Daddy Phil. He's like, I don't like calling Daddy Bob, Daddy Bob. So I'm like, well, what do you want to call me? He's like, well, I'd rather call you just Dad. And I'm like, well, that's fine if you, he's like, but I can't do it in front of Mom. I don't really have one. The last time I saw him, his mother had a fit because I had a girl in the car with me. I don't think that the fathers get really quick to just take the father right out of the picture. I think that in my case, it probably had a lot to do with my criminal record. Like if you don't sit, I think that to make a father more known, they have to sit down with him, talk to him, ask him some questions, which is, I don't think, a lot of what they do. They're more judgmental on what they see on paper as opposed to the actual human being that they're dealing with. It gives me hope that someday maybe I could at least be involved with them, and that he's a good, that I could have positive influence on him. I just feel like I haven't been allowed to. Physical appearance definitely has something to do with it. I don't shave my head because I'm skinny. I shave my head because I'm more bald. And it just feels cleaner to me than not having hair on the top of my head. But in a court situation, I could imagine that my appearance going in there with a shaved head and and with a criminal record, I can only imagine what they think. I want people to know that I love my son. I would have been a good influence on my son regardless of whatever my situation was, because I'm not going to raise somebody up in the world to be like an evil or bad person. I feel like I was jaded in a way, that they just took me out of somebody's life without ever even knowing who I was. They just took me for what was on paper. I'm not a bad person. And I love my son. That's what I want people to take away with.